So we have James Rossman with us today, a seasoned storyteller and writer, and today he's going to talk about some of the processes he goes through to make sure he has things in place before starting on his script and saving time and staying organized in the pre-production process. So for one of the first steps in your process, you ask yourself a series of questions to make sure that you have a story before you begin writing, right?
Right, that's correct. Okay, so the first 6 questions that I always ask myself before writing a script is 1, who is it about? Your main character, main protagonist, antagonist. 2, what do they want? What goal is it that they have in sight? 3, why can't they get it? What obstacles are there that they have to overcome? What do they do about those obstacles? And why doesn't that work is the next one. And that one's more so like, they try to get over the obstacles that they saw in front of them, but that didn't work. So what other avenues are they taking? And then lastly, what happens at the end? So my next phase in the pre-process before I even write my script is called doing your 20s. Okay, so there's a screenwriter by the name of Bill Marcelli, and basically what he talks about is doing your 20s. So that basically means taking every character, every event, every scenario, scene, writing it 20 different ways, basically. It may seem very monotonous, and it is. It's time consuming. Yeah. So, but this is all, for the pre-process of before writing the script. It's really good to be able to fledge all this out before, so that way as soon as you start writing the script, you can just kind of go. There's a flow to that. So, but with doing your 20s, just keep in mind that I've heard from a lot of people that the first 5 or 6 are very cliche. Now for me, it's more like 12. So for the romantic comedy film that I'm currently writing, it was just cliche after cliche after cliche that I was thinking about, and I'm like, what in the world? So yeah, after I got that 13th one, even though a lot of people say that's an unlucky number, that was a lucky number for me, because I feel like that was when I finally broke out of writing down ideas that weren't cliche. Mm-hmm. So, but I think as you're creating your 20s, I think once you go deeper into this, and you force yourself to really think about different different ways to open up the film, or how to transition from scene to scene, I feel like that's really where creativity and the originality comes from. So and romantic comedy films are they're interesting because for me, even though they sound like there is a blueprint, there's pretty much a blueprint kind of for every genre, but for me the romantic comedy was kind of challenging because romantic comedy movies are interesting because at least for me, they were kind of challenging. It was, it's kind of challenging to think of the idea that I have for this film, mainly because romantic comedies have been done a million times. Every genre, there's a million movies have been made about it, but I feel like romantic comedy is very much a structured blueprint. So it took me forever to be able to be like, okay, what can I actually do to, put a spin on things? Even if it's an idea that has already been done before, how can you bring about, a uniqueness to that? And so that's where
I totally see that this process would help you with that. And I think it really helps you to avoid your first idea. Your first idea and your second, third, and fourth are probably all the cliches that you're just, they're unbiased or biasly, it's subconscious. Mm-hmm. Subconscious biases toward cliches that you accidentally fall into all the time. And I think it's a really good idea. I've never heard of that. It's a good idea.
Yeah, and I think, your first 5 ideas, I feel like most, at least for me, the first couple ideas are just complete crap anyway. So it's, they're just not good. So it really helps, flesh that out as well.
Yeah.
So not only just the cliches, but just the bad ideas.
Yeah.
So, okay, so the next phase that really helps me in the pre-process of writing a script is concepts and treatments. So when developing a story, I use Milanote a lot here recently.
Yeah, they're not sponsored.
Right, exactly. I wish, but yeah. So within Milanote, what I normally do is I'll create a concept and a treatments column. So concepts are anything from, research, just concepts about what the movie's about in general. And most of the time, I'll have tons and tons of folders on that one because, that's basically, I don't know, like call it like an idea dump, dump everything in there. And so when I fledge those out and I really find out like what pieces fit in the story that I'm wanting to tell, I'll switch it over to the treatment column. And basically the treatment column, what I'll do is, for each, I'll break them up into like different scenes and events, and, I'll write, certain things for those and just be able to help me. But, when I switch it over to the treatments that's when it's like towards the end of like, hey, this is actually going to be put into the story.
Okay. And I can see how that would be important too to have for other people you're working with, right?
Yeah.
Whether that be other writers or something to hand off to a director or DP.
Yeah.
I can see how that can keep you organized to stay on track on where this is going.
Yeah, for me, it's especially back in college when I would write with other people. That's been, obviously we didn't have Milano back then, but that's it, doing these kind of things really helped to be able to stay on the same page. And because most of the time back in school, I would write more often than I would actually make films. So the concepts and treatment columns are a godsend. So my last phase that helps me with the pre-process of screenwriting is creating character Bibles. So it's always a good idea to create character Bibles, no matter how long your film is, basically because characters are kind of tricky. And that's kind of weird because you think, you're the one writing them, so you're telling them how to be and what to be and things along that nature. But, eventually it gets to the point to where, it's just the characters start writing for themselves. So it's always good to have that base, to always go back to, be like, okay, well, this character is this way, so maybe I shouldn't write it that way, even if you're on a flow. So, but, creating a character Bible, there's a couple basics to basically have answered or to have written about to fledge out a character. And those are backstory, personality, behavior, motivations, physical details, and their daily life. Okay, so when writing character Bibles, most of the time, if you think about it, these things that I had listed, they're kind of surface level. So it's always best to kind of go deeper, even if it's like a 5-minute short film. It's always best, in my opinion, to go deeper into these, so that way you kind of find out what makes a character tick. Obviously every character will have something different and that makes them tick, so it's always best to be able to find out what that is, basically. So,
and I would imagine these are useful too to give to actors to kind of get to know their character's backstory too, how they can act, who they're going to be.
Yeah, really. It doesn't matter if you're, in my opinion, it doesn't matter if you're, brand new to acting or if you're a seasoned actor. Like in my romantic comedy film, I have a friend of mine that has always wanted to act, has never acted. So, hers will definitely be a more in-depth character Bible, just so that way she can kind of study that and to be able to not necessarily fit the role, but to be able to carry the character out.
And from my experience of working with other directors, writers who have character Bibles, having something to go off of too when you're trying to figure out a situation or when you're playing out a scene on how a character's emotion should be, how should they act, how would they feel in this, you can kind of look back at this Bible and kind of get to know them in that end of it. Would they act this way? Would they behave this way? How would this character feel? This is their background. This is kind of who they are.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and two, within character Bibles, for me, I don't think everybody does this, but what I like to do is I like to take characters that are, very contrasty, I guess, towards each other. So like protagonist, antagonist, put them in a room and, they have to do, whatever you're writing. So just so that way, and it goes back to what I said earlier about making a character tick, that way you can kind of see, flesh out the characters a little bit more.
And I think you as a writer, that way kind of forces you to get to know these characters you made up.
Yeah. So after I do the exercise of, taking contrasting characters and putting them in a room together, what I'll do is I'll take, each character individually, and then I'll write them in some sort of conflict and then write my way out of that. So that way, you kind of, I feel like you really know your character then, and you can make them more relatable that way. So So wrapping this video up, just keep in mind that what I've talked to you about today may not work for you. This isn't super unique to me, but it's just kind of what what's helped me through the many years that I've been writing screenplays.
Yeah, I think it's super helpful to me because I've never thought of these exercises or these processes you do. And this is an area I'm trying to get better at. Is I'm not good at writing stories from nothing, but I'm good at being handed a story and I know how to enhance it with a look, whether that be lighting, lenses, camera choices, camera and composition, color grade, those parts. But starting from the foundation, that's a hard part. And that's something I'm trying to get better at. And these processes, I think, are super useful. And I know you heard of a lot of these too. So hopefully you guys got value out of this video. I know I did. And James, is there anywhere you want people to follow you at? I know you got into film photography.
I did, yeah, here in the past month or so. So yeah, there's 2 accounts on Instagram, at James Rossman Jr. and at james.shootsfilm.
We're going to be documenting and making videos about our process on making the short film that James has mentioned a few times throughout this video. We're going to be talking about our processes, whether it's things we've already known or learned before or things we learned along the way, whether we make mistakes. We're going to talk about the gear stuff, what we use on set to shoot what we want to shoot. The films will be uploaded here on this channel here. So if you guys want to subscribe and follow us on this journey and learn with us, we would love to bring you guys along, and we'd love to hear if there's anything else you want to ask James about the storytelling process on the writing portion of it. Well, that's it for this one. We will see you guys in the next one. I forgot to thank you.